Greetings. Eric Backer, New Zealand naturopath, author of Candida Crusher and formulator of the CanXida range of supplements. Thank you again for looking at my video. Grocery shopping tips after I know more have Candida. This is a question from June, a lady called June in Auckland, New Zealand. So June wants to know, wants some tips on shopping when she's cleared up the yeast infection basically. Well, June, that's a great question. Be very careful when you go shopping, whether you've got a Candida or you haven't got Candida. The key thing to look for is the kind of foods that you really go for, that you crave, that you desire. So you've probably heard many people say this before, don't go shopping when you're hungry or on an empty stomach. So usually eat some food first. Don't go shopping when you're bored. Be very careful because many people fall into this trap, of throwing all kinds of stuff into the shopping trolley that they don't really want. So what I tend to do when I go shopping is I chuck stuff in there, and then halfway when I go around I look at some stuff and I think, do I really want that? I look around, okay, I'll just dump this over here. So I might chuck something somewhere, I won't put frozen stuff in with the women's, clothing or things like that. I wouldn't do that, but be very careful before you get to the checkout, that what you've got is really what you want. Think carefully about what you buy because it may not be the right stuff. But good shopping tips for you are to preferably shop at places like farmers market, because that's farmers markets, these kind of outlets where people grow food and bring them. You're bound to get a selection of higher quality produce. Also, I think it's worthy to tell you to go to good whole food shops, where people actually sell lots of good healthy foods, rather than to shop at the supermarkets per se. Supermarkets are a good place to buy toilet paper. And maybe to buy shampoo or stuff like that, or whatever you buy. But when it comes to real food, often you're not going to get really good quality green produce like vegetables and fruits from supermarkets, because many places they're trucked in from very far away. They could be driven for hours or for many miles, kept in refrigerated vans. They could have been picked like 2 weeks ago. I'll never forget once when I bought a big head of broccoli from a supermarket and I put it in the vegetable crisper. And then I had some broccoli out of the garden, and I had that, in the refrigerator as well. Now the head of broccoli that we bought at the supermarket about 3 weeks later still looked okay, and the other one from the garden, within 4 or 5 days, it started to look all limp and it didn't look good anymore. So it just goes to show you the difference between stuff that's brought in from China, or who knows where the hell that broccoli came from. So I don't tend to really ever buy stuff like that from supermarkets. I would tend to grow most of my own food now. If I can't grow it, I would buy it from a place like a farmer's market or an organic grocery store where they sell certified organic vegetables and fruits. We use no chemicals or pesticides at all with any of the stuff that we grow. The strongest stuff I would use would be neem oil, and dilute down and spray that, on brassicas, for example, to discourage white butterfly. But a lot of produce that you buy in the supermarket could be peppered. So we got a lady in New Zealand, every 3-4 years she brings out a list called the Dirty Dozen of the 12 most heavily sprayed items found in a supermarket, in terms of vegetables and fruits. Celery ranks often number 1. Never ever buy celery from a grocery store that's conventional, because it'll be sprayed like crap. The celery I grow in the garden is beautiful, crisp. It's just so nice tasting. There's no chemicals on it. The trick with celery, I'm going to do a lot of videos hopefully later on in the year about growing food and producing food. Celery's got to be crisp and crunchy. It needs a lot of water, and a lot of people don't often water crops enough, and they get all stale and bitter for that reason. Pears was number 2, heavily sprayed. And there's a whole list which I'll bring out in a subsequent video. I'll talk about the most heavily sprayed crops that you don't want to buy from any sort of conventional outlets. So you've heard me say before, when you go to a supermarket or grocery store, generally you only buy stuff on the outer perimeter, because that's where all the perishables are, the dairy foods, the meats, the vegetables, the fruits. They're all on the outer perimeters of the supermarket. The stuff inside is all crap, we're talking like stuff that's heavily processed in packets and bags and cans and stuff like that. So the only thing I would buy in cans maybe for an emergency would be red kidney beans or sardines or stuff like that. Occasionally I might buy some tinned tomatoes or tomato paste, but I don't really buy any other things really in tin cans, because it's all crappy food. coconut cream maybe occasionally, but I wouldn't get anything else. So try and shop in the perimeter if you are going to buy produce, but preferably go to a really big organic health food store. That's where you're going to get fresh stuff: nuts, seeds, pulses, grains, rice, buckwheat, quinoa. You can buy these things bulk in high quality at these kind of stores. I store them in nice containers in a dark pantry, and we turn them over quite regularly. We buy kilograms of garbanzo beans, for example. I get the really big plump ones, soak them, and then just simmer them. We get brown basmati rice, we get azuki beans, red kidney beans, lentils, split peas, things like that. Those are the sort of things I buy and use a lot in cooking. And it's a real pleasure to be able to grow a lot of your own food. So I encourage people to do that. Even if you can only grow lettuce or tomatoes or some basic herbs. Yesterday I went out in the garden and I picked about 2 buckets of basil leaves. We made a huge big pesto up with basil and parsley and walnuts, and get fresh garlic out of the yard and olive oil. It was a beautiful, beautiful pesto. Now I've got enough garlic, I've got enough basil growing out there to make up a bathtub of pesto. Pesto is delightful to have with some wholemeal pasta. Just cook that up, put the pesto through it. These are all things that you could do if you wanted to, June. I'm not sure if you're inclined to make up some food yourself. It's a real delight to be able to do that, a pleasure, and it's really tasty and it's healthy. So try and get involved in that. Other shopping tips I'd have for you is if you are going to buy bread, talk to the baker, because quite often they will bake for you a nice rye sourdough bread. Pumpernickel bread is quite nice too. It's a little black, thick rye slices that you can get, that black stuff. I quite like that with a piece of cheese on top and some avocado. It's quite a nice snack. Sardines are not too bad. You can get ones packed in spring water, not bad to buy. A lot of people are down on these kind of canned fishes, but I'm not, if they're good quality. There's not really a lot that you want to buy from your grocery store, to be honest. You may well have seen my Candida shopping list. This is quite a good one for you to get hold of. You can get hold of this as part of our report if you click on the link below. You'll find a lot more information about this in my book, the shopping tips. So you can see the point I'm trying to make here. If you are going to go to a conventional supermarket, I would discourage you to buy vegetables and fruits there. I prefer you to get it from a farmer's market or a grower. You may know a local grower. Check to see what kind of chemicals they use, or preferably a farmer's market, as I said 3 or 4 times, because often these guys will not use a whole bunch of chemicals or grow your own stuff. Meats, again, you can often get, I know butchers, for example, or people here that do what we call home kill. So, you can get meat that's very clean. If you shop around on the internet, you can get poultry that's free range. You spend a bit more, but you're going to get higher quality. Free range eggs, free range poultry, free range lamb. Plenty of that here in New Zealand. Beef, all those sort of things. Fish, again, is a very important part of my diet. So fish you should be able to get hold of, again, at a good price if you know the right people. So those are some shopping tips I'd throw at you. Try and establish a network of people that you know that deal with high quality produce. Keep them on your mobile phone, write them down, list of these people, be in regular touch. They'll often contact you when they get something through, and you can either freeze that, so there you have it. That's a few shopping tips. Try and get away from the conventional stuff that everybody does. Going to the grocery store, buying crappy foods and making crappy dishes with crappy processed foods. You are what you eat is very important. So without any more raving on, I think that's given you enough there, June. Click on the link below and check that one out. You might like that one. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.